Hi guys, and welcome to a review of the Toyota bZ4X. What is that? It's Toyota's first all-electric vehicle. In fact, it's the first of 15 that are coming our way by 2025, which is just 2 years from now. In fact, Toyota reckon that about 90% of their Western European sales by 2025 will be entirely EVs, so interesting times ahead. So with this car, we'll take a look at the boot, we'll take a look at the interior, and of course, we're going to take it for a drive right after this.
A brown car guy.
So guys, what do you think of the design? It's very sharp, very angular, very sort of sharp edges over here. Now Toyota said this design theme for this is high-tech meets emotion. And you see this hammerhead look that they described it as hammerhead. This is supposed to be a signature thing that you'll see on the bZ models, including the slim LED headlights here. When you come to the side, you can see the low axis line, and you can see how the lines are kind of pushing the whole body down. And the idea here is pretty much to give it that sense of having the lower center of gravity, which of course it does have being an EV. Now, the big problem with this car, the number one problem that I have with it, is the name. Toyota have an illustrious history of fantastic names: Corolla, Cressida, Crown, Land Cruiser, even the GT86 Torino. I mean, what amazing iconic names, and suddenly you've got bZ4X, which I've been struggling to get my head around. What does it mean? What's it all about? So bZ is beyond zero, and all of the electric vehicles will get that prefix bZ. The 4 is basically, this is the electric equivalent of the RAV4, so it's been taken from there, and the X is basically to denote crossover. So that's what this essentially is. So it's kind of a code name to explain what it is. Now, compared to a RAV4, it's about the same width and the same height, but it is a bit longer because the wheelbase is about 160 millimeters longer on this car. Now you'll also see this car badged as a Subaru Solterra. Now that's a nicer name, isn't it? Now that's essentially the same car because this has been made as a joint project between Toyota and Subaru, and of course they've done that previously with the GT86 sports car. Now Subaru was given responsibility for handling the all-wheel drive system, so they made sure that this is, well, in their words, a genuine off-roader, which is something of a first for a fully electric vehicle. However, the drivetrain is pretty much Toyota, and in fact the batteries are a joint venture between Toyota and Panasonic, would you believe? 71.4 kilowatt hour battery. It's got 96 water-cooled cells. It's the first time that Toyota has used water cooling, and you're thinking, you know, it's the first time they made an EV, right? Yeah, but don't forget they do make hybrids, and they also obviously have batteries as well. Now Toyota guarantees that this battery pack will retain 70% of its capacity up to 10 years, and 1 million kilometers. That's about 620,000 miles. That's based on an annual EV check. You must do that as well. Now the range of this is 318 miles for the front wheel drive version, and it also comes with a all-wheel drive version, as I've mentioned, and the range for that is 286 miles. Now in the real world, you know, you don't normally charge this 100%. So the other day I had it down to about 30% with 77-mile range. I took it to a public charger, a Genie Point charger. I spent about 44 minutes there. I got it up to about 88%, and that gave me a range of 205 miles, and the cost for that was about £28. And the consumption that I've seen on the dashboard is 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. It's one way of judging how these EVs perform. The front-wheel drive gets 201 brake horsepower and 266 Newton meters of torque. This all-wheel drive gets 2 motors, front and rear, and it gets a total of 215 brake horsepower and 337 Newton meters of torque. The front-wheel drive will reach 62 miles per hour from rest in about 7.5 seconds. This one is just over half second quicker at 6.9, and they'll do about 100 miles per hour. So let's take a look at the rear of the car. Look at these massive spoiler type things here. So they give quite an unusual flavor to the back of the car. It's quite a big screen. It could do with a wiper, actually. I noticed when I was driving with the rain coming down. bZ4X, to remind everybody what it is, this is the all-wheel drive. Now, being the top of the range car, obviously it's got a power tailgate, and I can either open the tailgate with a little button under here or from the key fob itself, but I should be able to do that. And indeed, there it goes. That worked. And when you open the boot, once I slide this back, you'll see that there is actually quite a lot of space here. It's got 60/40 split folding rear seats, 452 liters of space here. You've got this rubberized mat again with bZ4X. So there's a few reminders of the name of this car. This is a rubberized mat, but then there's another floor there. And under the floor, you have another little cavity where you can store the charging cables, etc., etc. You've also got lights, hooks, etc., all the rest of it. Now, Toyota say that you can fit 3 suitcases in here or 2 mountain bikes. I don't know if that's what the seats up or down, but let's keep the seats up because it's time to see what the rear passenger space is like. And I'll use the button to close it. Right, let's try the rear of this car. And here we are. Now, I've actually switched it on, as you can see. And the reason I switched it on is because it does that thing where this seat goes back to let you in and out. So I've switched it on so the seat would go back into my driving position. So this is now my driving position. I'm 6'2" with long legs. So I'm effectively sitting behind myself right now. And as you can see, absolutely tons of knee room. So that extra long wheelbase definitely helps in this car in terms of passenger space. Loads and loads of room here. The edges, the tops of my feet maybe are just a little bit rammed in there. They are a little bit tight, and my feet also a little bit higher, obviously because of the battery pack that's in the floor. So the knees are maybe a little bit higher than normal, and the feet are rammed in. But other than that, this space is plentiful. Headroom, tons of it, no issues whatsoever. What do we have nice here? Lots of nice piano black trim. That's all pretty straightforward Toyota. On this one, we have the synthetic leather that they have upholstery on this car, top of the range car. We've got 2 USB-C chargers back here and 2 individual vents as well. So on a hot day that would help. And of course this one has the what was it called? The sky roof, whatever. Anyway, it's got panoramic glass roof with a divider here, which is odd. But it does have a shade that slides all the way across, powered, of course. Isofix chassis anchor points, of course, and a center armrest with 2 cup holders, and probably to keep your pens and things like that in there. You also get pockets here behind the seats, and otherwise pretty much, you know, and there's a little quarter light here as well in the back, just to let a little bit of extra light into here, because otherwise actually it is quite dark. So if it wasn't for this, it would be quite dark in here. Anyway, that's the rear. It's quite comfortable. Let's try the front. Right then, so here we are, the front of the Toyota bZ. Now the thing is, again, it reminds you as you get in, because it's here, bZ4X, and also on the carpet, bZ4X, but it doesn't say anywhere on the dashboard. So unlike old Toyotas, where you would normally get something. Actually, let me just show you the door before I close it, because you can see that being a RAV4 kind of version, or the electric version, you got space for a big bottle as well as a little bottle in the door pocket. Pretty straightforward controls here, memory seats, of course. Again, don't forget, this is the top of the spec car. Now, there's something quite dramatic to talk about here first, but before we get into that, as promised, let me just give you the specs on these cars. So you get basically 3 lineups. The first one is pure. It's only available in front-wheel drive, only comes with 18-inch alloy wheels and an 8-inch, so a smaller center display than this one. It gets a reversing camera and climate control. That's from £46,000. The Motion can be had in front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. It gets the rear spoiler, privacy glass, power tailgate, parking sensors, heated front seats, 8-way power adjustable driver's seat, a 12.3-inch display like this one. That starts from 50k for the front-wheel drive and £52,500 for the all-wheel drive. Now the Vision, the top grade, which is what this is, it gets the bigger 20-inch alloy wheels, gets the remote parking assist, it gets auto brake assist, like synthetic leather upholstery, as I mentioned, heated and cooled, as you can see here, front seats, the kick sensor for the tailgate, as I've demonstrated, heated steering wheel. And this car is fitted with the optional sky view roof, as they call it, the panoramic roof, really. So the Vision starts at just under £52,000 for the front wheel drive, and this one, the all wheel drive, is about £54,400. Right, so as I mentioned, check this out. So this is a unique feature on this one. The fact that the steering sits lower than the instrument panel. The instrument panel, you might think it's all of that, but actually it's this bit here, and it's got a kind of matte finish to it, and it's way out there in front, which actually kind of helps, because in terms of your eye focusing, when you're looking in the distance and something is put further away from you, it's easy to refocus. So actually in terms of your eye strain, it's actually better to do it like that. It's also pretty good at night, and in the daytime you might think that being so far out underneath this huge windscreen, you would get lots of reflections and stuff. I haven't experienced anything like that. Maybe because of the matte finish, but maybe because of the way it's just angled, I'm not sure, but actually there isn't any problem like that. But it's an unusual design that's literally, it's quite dramatic and scooped out. There's also a little display here. Then you get a regular wheel here, not even a flat bottom, with all your controls. This for the computer and your sound volume, and over here you've got your cruise control. Now, in China, apparently, there will be some models that will come not with a wheel, but a yoke. So like that half sort of thing, the Knight Rider style thing, which kind of works because this bit here can sometimes be a little bit of an obstruction just to the figures here at the bottom. So where the 200-mile range is and the 81%. Often when I'm driving, I can't see the percentage until I lean up a little bit. Otherwise, lots of interesting design touches, lots of little features. This is a canvasy type trim there. You've got all your normal buttons and stuff down here. So this is the large screen. Again, this kind of canvasy hard-wearing material goes all the way down there. This is a kind of storage space where you can put stuff. The screen is fixed in this particular car. There isn't a glove box, not that I can find. However, this has got plenty of storage space because it's got this big, if I can open it here, I'm sure that, there we go, I found the catch. There's a cubby box there, reasonably deep. Then there's a storage space here. And actually, it's got two levels, I guess, almost. You can almost, yeah, you can actually hide stuff underneath that level and then put the other level in because there is actually a little bit more space. So that's interesting, isn't it? And then you've got this space here, you've got the two cup holders. And don't forget down here, you've got this additional space. And in this additional space, you've got a 12-volt charger, you've got your USB-C, and this is where the actual user manual has been put. It's down here. In here, you've also got this place, which is the wireless charger for the phone. And the interesting thing about this is that when you put your phone there, I mean, yes, you know, it charges. So if I put it there, it should charge. Anyway, the interesting thing is that the cover, what they've done is they've made it semi-transparent. So when the phone lights up with a notification or a bulletin or something, you'll see that it basically, the light comes through that cover. So it doesn't completely cover up the phone. So that's quite good. So over here you have the control. And in this particular case, this has got a knob control. And park is a button. Drive is push it that way and it will go into drive. A system stop because I think the door is open, and then you push it the other way and it goes into reverse, and when you go into reverse you get the 360-degree camera. Now at the moment this is showing a solid car, but what I found is that when you're reversing it turns into a transparent car, which is extraordinary. It's very useful off-roading, or useful for off-roading as well. You've got your eco mode here, so you pretty much only have two modes, eco mode and normal mode. X mode, that's for your off-roading settings, so you get all the different settings when you go into there. So you got snow and dirt mode, deep snow, and yeah, so that's what you got there. There's your traction control. This is your one pedal mode, so you switch that on and you can pretty much drive it on one pedal. That's your hold, that's power, that's how you start it up. Your trip meter's there. This is all your settings for the AC and whatnot. Now I've got to say that it's quite a comfortable position. You're sitting quite far back, and generally you've got a good all-round visibility here at the front. It's a little bit claustrophobic at the back and maybe to the sides, but other than that it's not too bad. Right, I think the next thing to do, take it for a drive. I'm not going to be able to do an off-road review of this car. There isn't anywhere that I can really take it to put it through its paces. And to be honest with you, the reality is that this car is going to be used mostly like I'm using it right now, to go to Morrison's, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen. I'll take the family to school, or you know take yourself to work or whatever, that sort of thing, right? So it's going to be used for this, for driving around town. To be fair, so initial impression when I first drove the car, I've driven it, like I said, a fair bit now. Drove it about 100 miles, 110 miles or so. I drove it yesterday. And I think the first impression, I have to say, is that, you know, in pictures and at first glance, it doesn't really feel like it's that big a car. But as you get to take it in, and I'm going to turn the AC on because it's a bit warm, and what is that going to lose me? So I just dropped from 218. Let me do that again. So 218 mile range it's showing me. I turn it on and it drops to 201. So I'm losing about 10%. One of the things I found about the car was that when you actually look at it in a parking space or next to other cars, you think, actually, that's quite a big car. You think, oh, it's bigger than I thought. And actually, when you're sitting here and you're driving it, you also realize that actually this is quite a big car. I mean, I'm quite conscious of the fact that I've got a lot of space behind me. You know, I'm driving something that with a ton of room behind me, and you know, I feel like it's a room here. There's room here. So it's something that around town you have to be a little bit circumspect about guiding it through, because you know it does feel like a big car. And the big pillars, the big A pillars, they are sort of, you know, these sort of quarter-light windows, little windows within windows. But the A-pillars take up quite a bit of space. And so there's a little bit of feeling that you're kind of enclosed here and maybe not getting quite as much view on that side. So you have to make good use of that mirror over there. But generally it's fine. Placing the car hasn't been too much of a problem because the width of the car is generally easy to judge from where you're sitting. So it hasn't been too much of a problem. So overall, at first acquaintance, you do get the impression that, oh, actually, this is quite a big car. But as you drive it, it does that thing where it kind of shrink wraps itself around you a little bit, and you get quite used to it. Still being aware of something that is actually, you know, quite family friendly, so to speak. So anyway, so that's one point about it. The other point about it, obviously, then follows that obviously this thing only has, so the modes that it has eco mode. That's it. Right, and I pretty much left it on eco mode because it actually hasn't made that much difference. So that's accelerating on that, and then you know it's just slightly more eager when it's not on eco mode. But the reality is that if you want to, you know, use it as an EV and conserve your range and stuff like that, then you might as well just use it on eco mode, right? So again, it's not on eco mode, and actually the acceleration is pretty eager, and then put it on eco mode. And it's just sort of, it just damped a little bit, you know, that's all it is. It just kind of feels like it just holds it back by just a fraction of a fraction, if you like, you know. So in that sense, you know, but it's probably best to just leave it in eco mode. That's probably the best way to drive it. But around town, I mean, again, the steering is fine. It's light. It's not really an issue. Obviously this thing is all-wheel drive, so again it gives you that added reassurance of being all-wheel drive, added reassurance of also being able to put that power down without worrying about it, because there's a fair amount of torque, as there always is with these electric vehicles, and the acceleration isn't bad. I mean, considering, like, you know, even, you know, this is not even in eco mode. I'm like, whoa, you know, that's pretty quick. So it's a machine that feels hefty but relatively quick, but also actually quite easy to drive. And I think that that's also solid character traits that you will find in most Toyotas anyway. You know, right up from the Corolla to the Land Cruiser. They're big, comfortable, practical, usable cars that you know, are actually quite easy to own and run and maintain and drive. And I think that this is something that, you know, if Toyota were to sign off on this car, they would have to be sure that this would meet those expectations as well, because it's a Toyota. You know, it's as simple as that, you know. And of course it's got to be reliable and all the rest of it as well. So steering is light, not really an issue. Visibility all around, like I said, at the back it's a little bit enclosed. It does have the 360 camera, so that really helps with parking. Mostly it's okay with the mirrors, and the rear view out the window is good. The rear window, I don't recall that it's got a wipe on it. So in the rain, it could do with a wipe, because it's quite slanted that. But other than that, it's fine. At the front, it's not a problem. The ride is actually very good on this car. And again, I think that, you know, for a while now, I've been complaining about electric cars that they feel really kind of really tight in the base of the car, because obviously that's where the battery is, and that makes it really kind of rigid and makes it kind of, you know, the firmness is quite, you know, can be quite irritating. But in this car, it just feels like any Toyota. It's just very well damped, very comfortable. Haven't really noticed anything jarring at all about the ride. Brakes, again, these cars, they use regen. Now there is actually a one pedal drive system here. Doesn't always come to a halt as totally as you might expect, But actually, with a bit of practice, you can pretty much drive it on one pedal mode most of the time. If you get into the habit of just judging your distances correctly and stuff like that, I have done it, and you can do it. And actually, it's quite good. So the only thing is it doesn't stay on. So when you switch it on, it's on, and then when you restart the car next time, it'll go back to off, and then you have to turn it back on again. I don't know if there's a way in the settings to keep it on, but I would just keep it on, because I actually quite like one pedal mode. And every now and then I forget to turn it on. I'm like, oh, you know. So like one pedal mode, pretty much, yeah, it's slowing there, you know, almost to a halt, but very easy to get used to. I think some people find it a little bit difficult to adapt to it, but I've never had an issue. I think give it some time, one pedal mode. I mean, you do get lazy, then your left foot will get lazy because there's nothing to do, and then your right foot gets lazy because it doesn't have to swing between two pedals as often. But you should just be ready to hover over that brake pedal, because ultimately, if it's an emergency, you'll still need the brake pedal. Right then, so let's actually come off eco mode, just for the heck of it. Like I said, I don't think it makes a huge amount of difference. I'll leave the one pedal mode on. Now this road here is normally one of the bumpiest roads that I know. It's a good test of the suspension, that's for sure, and the ride comfort. As you can see, we're already being bounced around, but actually, yeah, it's just very well damped, very well composed. Body control is excellent, you know, no issues. Even, yeah, I mean, picking up speed and these things, you could leap a car off here. There you go. But seems to be fine. Doesn't seem to be an issue. You can feel it, but it's not jarring or uncomfortable. And obviously, when you take it easy, then it just damps everything out, just smothers everything out quite effectively. I mean, it has the performance, it has the speed. But it's not a car that you necessarily want to be checking around. This is definitely not a sports car. I don't think that there's even a pretense towards it. Hence, it doesn't even have a sports mode. It just has normal and eco, and you can kind of understand where they're coming from. But in terms of doing what you expect it to do as a family vehicle, I think it's spot on. I think it's doing exactly everything that you'd want it to do. Right, so a bit of a motorway type scenario, but again, I mean, it just rides. I mean, I took it up motorways yesterday and it performed flawlessly in the rain. Wipers are very good, big windscreen, but a big sweep, not a problem at all. A little bit of patter you could hear of the rain, because obviously, you know, there's not a lot of other noise. One of the things about EVs that you get is that you suddenly become aware of noises and things that you normally might not have, you know. So, but otherwise, you know, it was absolutely spot on, not an issue at all. It's a very comfortable cruiser, and again, like in this sort of scenario, just chomping up miles, chomping up distance, it does very well. I mean, obviously, then the rate of usage you have to keep an eye on. Now, with Toyota, don't forget, they're among, you know, one of the world's biggest manufacturers, and a great deal of foresight. Don't forget that between Toyota and Honda, they were the very first manufacturers on the scene when it came to hybrids. Honda with the Insight, and Toyota, of course, famously with the Prius. And they were the first to go hybrids. Yes, they put their flag in the ground, and of course hybrids are now so commonplace. So many cars have hybrid or mild hybrid systems you don't even realize anymore. And they knew it. They saw it and they did it, and they jumped at it straight away, and they were like, yep, this is definitely something that's going to be important for the future, and they jumped on it. So it really makes you wonder and think about the fact that why, I mean, Honda now have 2 or 3 EVs, but Toyota, this is the first one, although, you know, technically it's the first one between them and Subaru, but also Lexus now also has an EV, so you could say 2 or 3 EVs. But it's genuinely still the first 4 into the market. Having said that, first 4 into the market, and they've, you know, nailed it day one. Maybe that's what they're waiting for. Maybe they're waiting for the technology to get better to the point where they know that they'll have a quality product from day one. You know, they won't have to make any compromises on it. Or maybe they were just hesitant because Toyota, don't forget, went a long way, and did Honda, a long way down the hydrogen route and explored that option before not quite giving up, because Toyota, you can still buy hydrogen cars from them, but now turning to electric in a big way. And I don't know if that's Toyota leading or if that's Toyota actually now starting to follow instead, which would be unusual for a company like Toyota. But at the end of the day, with everything that's happening, And with the fact that, you know, with the EV mandates that are out there that are going to be basically forcing manufacturers to ensure that a certain percentage of their cars are going to be electric, you know, major manufacturers such as Toyota will lose out big time if they don't have EV products in their range. So it's almost like they must do this. And so they have done it, and they've done it very well. But it still makes you wonder if Toyota are still not 100% in. Or maybe they're just going, you know what, we need to offer people choice. And you know what? I'm with that. I agree with them. We should offer people choice. They should have the choice. Electric, hydrogen, diesel, petrol, hybrid. The more the better. Anyway, there's my review of the, well, is it my review? What have I said? I've said this is a really good car. That's what I've said. It's a really good product. I think Toyota have done a great job, and they pretty much nailed it straight out of the box. They sussed it. So there you go. There's my review of the Toyota bZ4X. The only criticism that I have, Toyota, is can you please change the name of this thing? Because it's just, you know, I just can't get my head around it. Anyway, there's my review of the Toyota thingy. Let me know what you think of it in the comments, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Brown car guy. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these three little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.